Yeah, go ahead and launch your real quick.
Hi there, welcome.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Somebody in the front row. Woo! He's gonna have to
And I'll
take
minimize
the
it
front
and move
row
to the other one.
seats away.
Okay, so there's
Bring
two
up.
here.
Yep. And yep, that's one.
So you can just bring
on
mine
that.
back
We're good.
up.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Sir?
Walk them through the front.
There you go.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. Wowzers. Come on in. Come on. Sit down, we won't bite. Okay. Hey, welcome everybody. Happy Blue Friday. Go Hawks.
Yeah.
Go Hawks. All right. Hey, I saw a great video my son shared with me yesterday. I don't know if there's any Seahawks fans in the room, but it was great. It was produced by the 12s, which is the fan club of the Seahawks. And what they'd done is they'd taken a commercial that was produced with Colin Kaepernick. He's the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And they set it to music, and it basically showed him in all his glory, getting sacked and pummeled and beat down and confused and baffled by our wonderful hometown football team. I went back and I checked, and it had been posted to YouTube for about 5 minutes. It had 49,000 views. I wanted to start off with that story because part of what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about not just creating content, but distributing more content. The purpose of the video Lunchbox is to share knowledge from industry professionals here on campus with all of you, because we know everybody wants to create more video. So I think we have a great group of folks here today to do just that. The topic is create and distribute more video, exclamation point. And so today you're going to hear from UW video producer Rick Garza. A little bit about Rick. I always appreciate you guys are so brave to actually say you've been 30 years in the television production business, but 26 years at Cairo, 9-time Emmy winner, 20 Emmy nominations, a 2013 Telly Award winner for his work here. And Rick also manages all of our operations down at UW Athletics. So very lucky to have him here. He's going to talk about setting up an interview, something that many of the units do, and he's going to give us some great tips on that. Also with us today is one of our great editors, Bob Zatt, 25 years working in production, and many other things, right, Bob?
Yes.
So
I just can't find what I want to do.
you know, and I love this about Bob because I get to say, in the early days of the punk music scene, Bob edited videos for groups that were later aired on MTV and VH1. So, do we do punk now? Do they get those kind of things? So
Sort of.
Sort of.
It's changed.
And our third guest is Drew Keller, award-winning TV producer, editor, educator, works in MCDM program.
Correct, which is now Communication Leadership.
And is currently in production on a series called Biz Kids for PBS. He's worked on concert videos for David Byrne, Alanis Morissette, and Janet Jackson. So what have you done for me lately?
Not much.
Okay. So anyway.
Wait, John. That was
I
got it.
Well, I was going to take him to the river, but
Yeah. So anyway, I'm John Haslam. I'm the Associate Vice President, General Manager. My contribution to this is kind of handling this three-ring circus a little bit. I'll come in at the end and try to give you some few facts. My background is at the Seattle Times Company, where I helped launch SeattleTimes.com. I worked at Comcast Corporation, where I helped launch the video on demand platform, Fandango, VHIX, and the Comcast.net terminal site that I'm sure many people who have Comcast know. go there every day, right, and get your email. So, consultant, and then been here, which just blows me away. It's going to be 5 years in April, which is just, where did the time go? So, without further ado, Rick, setting up an interview.
Setting up an interview. So I guess the first place to start is to ask the question. In this day of digital media and the ease now of being able to put video on your own websites and to be able to email out video, have you thought about this? Is this something you've already done? Just a quick show of hands about how much video, and if you could, or maybe you have done video interviews in the past. Anybody? Not you. You don't have. It's obviously growing, and your ability now to take video, and Drew had his iPhone. I was watching, put a little lens on there. That everything from an iPhone up to what I'll show you in a second, which is a very inexpensive camera in a way to do video, to put your interviews and your things online and not on your websites. Of course, that's the technical way of doing it, and that's technically putting it on there is one side. The other thing is how to actually make it look good, very simply, so that your prosumer, amateur videos look the same as it would look on CNN. The way they frame it, and it's actually very simple, and it's growing. We just did a talk 3 nights ago. Jill Doherty was here from CNN, and the biggest thing that she said was that it's all about the internet and all about websites. And the more video that you put on your websites now, the better, because that's where everybody's looking. So, with that, let me go and start. I always like to kill trees, so I did put together. And I'll pass these out. This is just kind of, these are some, just some suggestions, some tips for conducting an interview. And I got to thinking, okay, why would you want to do this? Because we've done these in the past too, where we've done interviews for departments and schools, and the whole purpose was to get your colleagues on camera talking nice and saying good things. They're testimonials so that you can put together a video about what your department does. And so these were just a few things that we do every day when we think about them. And I'll go through these, then we're going to do it in some practical terms here. Just some things to think about. If you're going to interview even your colleague that you may not know a whole lot about. And the whole point of this is to get somebody comfortable before you put them up there, because somebody can be a great talker when you're just having a conversation with them, but when you turn the red light on, all of a sudden they don't know what to say. So the more comfortable you can make somebody, and especially somebody who you don't know, who you've been asked to interview, the better. So get to know them. Find out a few things about them outside of the questions that you're actually going to ask them, so that it makes them feel comfortable and they're comfortable with you. You'll have a list of questions. The one thing that we know is that try not to actually read the question, because if you're reading the question, you're really not engaging with the person, and try to be conversational. You've written down exactly what you want to say, but try to then put that in terms of conversation, how we speak every day. And it's all to make the person who you're interviewing feel more at ease. Couple of important things. Never ask a question that somebody can answer yes or no to. And I put my little thing, do you like ice cream? Yes. Okay, next question. So instead of asking, do you like ice cream, what's your favorite ice cream and why? Why do you like ice cream? Okay, they can't really say yes or no to that question. It makes them think about it. The other thing would be, try not to ask questions that you can get 1 or 2 word answers out of. What's your favorite color? Blue. Okay. Instead of that, tell me about your favorite color. Tell me about what you like about the color blue. And then one thing to think of, and this happens all the time when we go out as producers and reporters, that kind of thing. You'll go out and you'll ask, and you know what you want to get. So especially in you know that you would like to have somebody say, you know, something about, you know, about whatever the topic is. And they're just not, you ask the question and they just don't say really what you're looking for or the way. Don't be afraid to go back and re-ask it after you let them warm up a bit. And ask it in just a different way than you did the first time, and then there's a good chance you're going to get an answer that you really did want. Never be afraid to ask them to say it again, because if somebody were to cough in the background, right in the middle of what they were saying, that was good timing.
We planned that.
That was very good. You know, we've seen it many, many times where that shows up. Honestly, don't be afraid to say, you know what, can we stop for just a second? Let me ask you that question again. And because it never fails that the minute you turn on a camera, it can be as quiet as a mouse. The minute you turn on a camera, the red light comes on and an airplane will fly over. Or somebody will walk down the hall or something. So don't be afraid to ask them to say it again. And then depending on how you're doing this, and I'm going to show you just quickly a couple of techniques. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to see you. You're going to be off camera, you're going to be asking your questions. So you'll ask the question, and if the question is, you know, how many times, you know, how many times do you go to the hub for lunch in a week? I'm going to make this up, obviously. And if they say, oh, 3 or 4 times a week, because they didn't see you, then it's kind of out of context because they're not going to really hear you say that. You're only wanting their answer. So ask them to speak in complete sentences. Ask them to just repeat the question back to me. So how many times do you go to the hub to eat during lunch? The answer would be, I go to the hub to eat probably 3 or 4 times a week. That gives you what you need and you can actually use it as a complete sentence. One thing I always do is after I've exhausted everything that I want to ask them, I always ask them, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted people to know? Is there anything just, you've always said in your head, if somebody would just ask me this, I would tell them. And a lot of times people will stop and ponder for a second, oh yeah, you know, I'd really like to know, like you to know this. It's a good idea to know when to keep going, because you can tell if somebody is in the moment, and you've already run out of your questions, but keep going. And then the other thing is you can always tell when you've basically gotten everything out of them that you can, and knowing when to stop is also a good thing too. So just a few tips. There's probably 1,000 more on here, but just some of the things that I thought about. So now that you're ready to do this interview, from your iPhone to your small camera, which is what we have here, setting up the interview and what it's going to look like is that's more than half the battle. So we have this handy little camera here. Just so you know, this is like the newest technology out there. This little camera is about $2,500. This same camera 10 years ago would probably be $20,000 because the features this camera has in it were reserved for the bigger cameras. This has an incredible amount of features that you just didn't find even 3 or 4 years ago that were only reserved for the broadcast cameras, and now we have this camera that takes incredible images and is affordable. And then on top of this, the latest and greatest thing is this little gizmo here allows you to wirelessly send HD video to wherever, no wires. And so we have it in there, and so you can see we can kind of roll it around. And this little unit is less than $1,000, which is just unheard of that we could do this. So if we were going to interview, and we'll let Drew, because he's sitting in the perfect spot. So we have our camera, we have our interview subject. Drew is our interview subject. A lot of times what we will see, and so we'll kind of get in here. So we'll do like this, and we'll look at this video, and now they're ready to do the interview. And we actually see this a lot. But what else do we also see? I have to add a prop here. I looked for a plant,
Oh, something through my head?
but I didn't have a plant. So,
Something coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
See, there we go.
so how many times have you seen something like this? So, and a lot of times you're really not even thinking about it. You don't think about it until after you go, you're done, and you go back home, you look, and you go, where did that come from? Right? That wasn't there. Well, yeah, we don't really think about it. So, so you know, frame them. If I were to leave this here, yeah, we could move the camera just a bit, but for now, so it's that environment kind of thing. You know, which happens all the time, and it happens to us all the time. There are a lot of times you just can't see everything. We're always looking for door handles. We're looking for light switches, you know, plugs on the wall, or just things that even chair molding that goes across and it's cutting right through somebody's chest. So just take a second. After you get it the way that you want it to look, then look at it and see what is around it that you may not want to see, and either move the subject, move the camera, or get rid of it. So now we have him here, and we can see him. To my eye, he looks, and we call there two things. This. So we have, so above his head, we call this the airplane room, because you could fly an airplane above his head. There's so much room. And then off to the side, we could run a train down the side because there's so much space on the side. With just a little bit of framing, then we can center him up, and he looks a little bit better. So we talk about headroom, and that's the top and the bottom, the headroom, and then the side to side. And there are a couple techniques. The other thing is that if you notice, and I did this on purpose, the camera is probably almost a foot above his head, the lens is. So we always try to get the lens even with their eyes. So if we lower the tripod down just a little bit, so we get it down to his head level, and you'll see that it does make a difference when we frame him up. Now he's looking basically in the camera, and it's at eye level. So with that, we're ready to do our interview. We have really two ways to do it, and it all depends on what the final output is, and who the person is talking to. If you want your person talking to the person who is watching at home or on their computer or in their office, then by all means have them look into the camera. If that's the point that the final goal is to have them do that, and a lot of times we do that as a testimonial, where you want them looking right into the lens and you want them telling the person something, the testimonial. And then the other way would be kind of we call it the reporter look, so you're really kind of looking off camera. So if I were the reporter, I'm standing over here, and Drew is looking right at me. So to do that, the other thing we would do, if he's doing that, we move the camera just a little bit so that he's really not in the center. So Drew is really kind of off to the side a little bit, and we call that the nose room. So that it gives him a little bit of look. So it really plays a little bit better off to the side. And then the other thing is that depending on what you're doing with the final product, if you're doing this by yourself, then by all means don't be afraid to just lock the camera down and leave it there. But if you're trying to put this into a larger presentation, where you might have a lot of different interviews with people, so it may not be one, there may be 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you have everybody looking the same way, the same size, so if I had 5 interviews and everybody, when they came up, was sitting in the same spot looking the same way, if you were to go from one to the other, the term is jump cut. So it looks like your head's going, oh, because they don't really move. So don't be afraid to move the camera a little bit out sometimes, have them look the other way. If you're doing 6 interviews, I would have them looking one way for 3 interviews and one way for the other 3 interviews. And then also don't be afraid to change your focal length. So as you're asking your questions, and especially if you're lucky enough to have somebody running the camera for you while you're asking the questions, or you're running the camera for somebody else, while the person is asking the next question, then don't be afraid to reframe, and especially if you know what the question is. So if the question is something a little more dramatic or poignant, you can go in a little bit tighter with it. You should also probably, when you start, be a little bit wider, so it kind of establishes where you are and the whole thing. Then don't be afraid to move the camera around. And the other thing would be, so if you're doing it and the person starts answering, then say, oh, hold on one second, the camera was moving in there. So, any questions? All kind of make sense, or? Yeah.
If you were doing like a 1-minute interview
Uh-huh.
with one subject, would you want to reframe it all or just keep it the same?
That's a very good question. Is it, if it's just one long answer for it, I'd probably keep it the same.
For like 2 or 3 different topics.
And if you're going, I think it all depends. The thing with video, it's everything is different, and it depends on the questions and the subject. Also depends on if you're having something in between, because the other thing would be if you have the same person doing that, and you have 3 different questions, and one is framed like this, your second one is framed like this, and your third one is out here, going from one to the next, that looks jumpy too, right? Because your eye just kind of jerks when it sees the person in a different spot. The other thing you can do in between, so then if you wanted to do just a little bit of editing, you could take those 3 and you could do a dissolve between them. Dissolves tend to show time has passed, so you can put a little dissolve in between. You can do, there are other little tricky things too. So it depends on what the final outcome is. If this were an MTV video, right, it doesn't really matter, right? And the MTV video, the camera would really not stay still. The camera's always going to be, the camera would just be moving the entire time. So it all depends on what your final product is going to look like. So, other questions? Okay, who's ready to do a video? Okay. That's my demo.
Thanks, Rick. That was great. We're so lucky to have this guy in our team, and I have to give Drew props. You can tell a true television person because he actually looks better on TV. But
time in front of the lens.
anyway. So up next is Bob Zatt. Bob is one of the things that, so in keeping with the theme of create and distribute more content, one of the things that we know about some of the units on campus is your archive of B-roll may not be as deep as ours is here, but I'll bet you've got a lot of still photographs. And Bob is a master at making still photographs come to life, and he can even fool you that they're actually more than just still photographs. So Bob's going to do a little demo about that, and take it away.
Great, thanks. After you've secured your interview, the client will probably go to the file cabinets and open up, and here are 4 drawers full of still images that they want to use. And you go, oh my God, what am I going to do with these? In the old days, Rick knows, Garza knows, he knows that pre-digital, pre-computer, in the analog days, when you had to use a still image, like a photograph, even a slide, you either projected it on the wall and shot it with a camera, or you pasted the print or the picture to a wall, a piece of foam core, and you actually shot it. If you wanted to do any moves on it, you did that with the camera, and that was recorded to tape, and then you cut that into the show or into your production. Now with the advent of digital file-based media and desktop computing and all of the electronic wizardry that we have available to us now. The question I get asked a lot, and Rick does too, is what file format would you like? And we have, oh, what happened here? It went to sleep. No. There are basically 3 formats. Hello. There we go. There are 3 file formats that we would like to see our images in, and they are JPEG, TIFFs, and PNGs. You can Google or do a Wikipedia search for each of these file formats, and it will give you what the letters stand for and why they are being used. The most common file format that we get for imagery is JPEG. It's used photographs, it's used in print, the whole bit. You can compress, you can take a large image and you can compress it so you can transmit it or send it in an email. You can also compress it so much that you just blow the image apart. You can't recognize what it is. TIFFs are used in photographic publishing and in print publishing. They're a really high quality, lossless type of file and the files are very large. I just got an image from someone today. The TIFF was 88 megabytes. The JPEG was 148 kilobytes. So it was considerably smaller. And basically they look the same. The PNG is also a replacement for what we had. It was the GIF, the GIF file, animated GIFs. This is a new popular format, and it also is a lossless, smaller type file. So you've got your still images that your client gave, and they said, well, how do I get those to you, and what do I do to make them look better? What you can do is, with today's technology of scanning, you can actually have a flatbed scanner that will do documents and photos. And so you can scan your photos, you can then place them or position them how you would like. And with the program that comes with the scanner, you can then select the dots per inch, DPI. You can actually change the size of the file that you would like. And so as video editors, we prefer to have a larger file with more dots per inch, because that, if we have to blow the size of the image up, it doesn't fall apart as fast as if it was a smaller file with less dots per inch. So I have some examples here of images that were sent. Actually, this is a thing that Rick worked on. And you can see what the original image size was, and then this is how it, let me go back so you can see this. The image size was 1024 by 683, and it was a JPEG at 72 pixels per inch. And then as it goes, that's what it was. You can see the black lines on the side, and so it was blown up so that it would fit the HD 1920 by 1080 format. Here's another picture, and this is then how it ended up in the video. And then we slide to, I have 4 or 5 examples here of various images, various sizes, and what happens. When you have a smaller, an image that has a lot of dots per inch, you can then do pans and pushes and do some digital manipulation with it. So these are just examples. And then you have this style of format of an image, which, what am I going to do with the black? You know, so you then get artsy and you create something that's basically, you blow up the image behind it, fuzz it out, put a Gaussian blur or something on it, and that actually looks quite nice. And then this is quite a large image. It would be 20.8 inches by 15.9 if you were to print it out. And it's 72 dots per inch, or pixels per inch. So it was used in a video, and this is a move you can do. So you can take images that would be just flat and actually do some enhancement to them to make your product look better. What I have next is, again, more samples. This will show you images that were used in a production. What you will see is basically the raw footage or the raw image with the logo. And then text. This was, if you notice, this was probably a PDF that was sent via, or Rick went out and captured this off the web. You can't really read the print, but he got it as a fairly high resolution image and used, there are 4 or 5 pages here. So what we have to do is go in and crop them, and then you can make your piece, which is, this is what the end product looked like. This is just a segment out of a show. So you do a little move, you slide some things in, you have things move across the screen. So it gives it, you know, it gives it some life and makes it more interesting than just a still image on a screen over a background. And the sound effects were part of, there was some narration, but I didn't bother to put that in. So you can see how easy it is to take some photos and make them interesting. What I have here is an archival photo. This is the Liberty Theater that used to be downtown in Seattle between, I think, Stewart Street and Pike, or between Pike and Pine. The person that archived and saved the photo was so nice to put a sticker up in the upper right-hand corner to tell you what it is. That sort of ruins the whole process as to what you're doing. So, with some tricks, and I won't even go into what it is, but you'll see that you can take an image and you can move it and look at the sky. You can knock out what was up there. With Photoshop, I could replace the side of the image that had the sticker, and you have some motion and clouds in the background. And this was used in a presentation a while ago. Here's another image that had similar treatment. This is the Wurlitzer Musical Instrument Factory in North Tonawanda, New York. A photo from probably 1915 or 1916. You remember that?
Yeah.
1916?
We
Yeah.
took a
Or
field
the
trip
building.
there.
Pardon me?
We all took a field trip there.
Yeah, well now you can, these are condos, okay? So again, you have this really nice archival photo, and there's the sticker in the upper left-hand corner again. Great, thanks, I appreciate that. So again, you can put this,
Oh, that's great.
and see, you add some motion to it, you add, you know, I could have comets flying in the sky or whatever.
And the explosion.
And the explosions, or 4th of July, we can have fireworks.
Or you could have Wurlitzer organ music.
Well, I took it out just for this,
Oh, you
okay? Yeah, yeah. That's one of my fantasies. And then again, here is, this is taken interior, this is 1915. The Dream Theater, which was located in downtown Seattle, Pioneer Square. That's Oliver Wallace, who went on to work for the Disney Company as the musical director for a lot of the animated features. It's a nice looking image. However, it's static and doesn't have much appeal other than just an archival photo of what this is. So again, oh, I wanted to show you, yes. Look at the, do the front seat here. Look at this photo and see the row of chairs. Okay, now in the motion of the image, watch the chair because it's 3D in a sense. So you can do some very interesting things with some of the tools that we have available to us now. So I thought that was, let's see this.
Could you tell folks what is that process that you just showed them? The name of it?
Basically, it's in After Effects. This was done probably 3 or 4 years ago in a previous iteration of After Effects, and it was labor intensive. Now, they have a filter, and you want the magic 3D filter, you grab it and you apply it and you get what it took a long time for us to do a while ago, not that many years ago. Now this is a sample of how you can use still images in a real production and make it very interesting, compelling. Graphics, you can add graphics, and music. And music is a real subjective thing in production. People, you might have a client who absolutely wants you to use a specific piece of music. It happens to be a popular piece of music, but they love it. They were married with the music playing in the background, the whole bit. Can't use it because it's copyrighted. I don't care, how much money you have as a client, we can't use it unless you have the rights to it. So we have available a few music libraries that we pay an annual licensing fee for. So we can, based upon your needs and whatever the production is that you're going to do, we can select music that will enhance your production. And it won't cost us a legal time at the lawyer.
Complications.
Complications, yes, yeah.
Or worse yet.
Primarily indigenous areas, sort of in the four
No, this is,
northern districts of Guatemala.
Some still imagery.
In these villages, a hospital
His
is no
voice.
more than a plain, small building on a simple street.
Guatemala in these areas have a maternal mortality rate of about
Graphics.
250 per 100,000 births, compared to somewhere like here in the US where you get about 15 per 100,000 live births.
The American team is called Pronto. It's a Spanish acronym describing emergency obstetric and neonatal training. And that's why they have come to this rural corner of the world, to train Guatemalan doctors how to deal with emergency room deliveries.
So Rick not only produces, he does voiceovers.
Forgot about that story.
Yeah, we're gonna hear it again.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a nice piece, compelling. This is another sample, a little more involved. Archival photos.
Gil Dobie put Husky football on the map. Coaching the Huskies from 1908 to 1916, he never lost a game, and that's a lot of football in the W column. By the time Dobie finished his run at UW, the stands were packed, 20,000 a game, with thousands more begging to get inside. The old stadium at Denny Field on the edge of campus simply could not contain the fever Dobie whipped up every Saturday. So winning and winners got a new home along Montlake. A modern concrete and steel bowl providing seating for 30,000. Just a down payment for today's capacity, but it truly was monumental. It was the only real sports stadium in town when it was completed in 1920.
See? Still imagery told a nice story. This next piece is a commercial that was done probably 3 months ago, using a combination of some background video and still imagery treated with 3D effects, just to make it more compelling.
You were cordially invited to the Museum of Grit and Determination, the Museum of Originality and Local Flavor, the Museum of Heart and Soul, of falling down and getting back up, of crushing losses and triumphant rebounds, of breaking ground and breaking through, the Museum of History and Industry. Visit the new Bezos Center for Innovation at Mohi, now open.
Nice spot. Took some time to do because there are a lot of layers of video and still imagery. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and then again, with some cutouts of imagery, you can do a simple spot like this.
Dogs in the house, 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 dogs in the house.
Better take Sarkeesian.
I know. I just went, who's the guy on the left?
I was going to say, this spot needs to be redone because there's a person who's no longer here.
Yeah, really. A big X over his face.
Whoops. Well, when I saw that, I'm going to show it anyway.
Dog's not in the house.
Dog's not in the house, right. And then this next piece just shows graphics over a moving background with some original music that was used as an open for a product show.
Bob, that was really exciting.
Let's see, was that in red? So my point is that you can use still images effectively. It depends on how creative you want to get as to how much time we take to make things happen. But it's totally possible to do, and it's very effective. With music, graphics, and good imagery, doing some digital manipulation, you can enhance his talking head. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Good job. Great stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, up next, we're very lucky to have Drew Keller here. I think that one of the things that I hope we all recognize is that this world of media, this world of communications is a bit like being on a conveyor belt, right? The scenery keeps changing right before our very eyes. And not to discredit Mr. Keller in any way, but anybody who tells you they're an expert, you gotta kind of wonder a little bit. Just kidding.
No.
But the point
We're all
is
making it up.
that what we're going to try to do in these next two segments is kind of give you a sense of the state of things today. But the point, and what we hope you all take away from it, is that the research is out there, the data is out there, and it's changing all the time. And in order for you to create great content that people want to watch, you've got to understand what the consumption habits are and what the trends are. So, Drew, take it away.
So this should be fun, and hopefully it'll give you a little bit of little better understanding about how to get somebody to see your efforts. You know, you put a lot of work into something, you want it to find your audience, and there are a couple of questions that you need to ask right off the top. And the first one is this for an internal audience or is it for an external audience? So in other words, is it content that you're looking to do that lives inside the walls of the University of Washington, or is this content that's going to live in a larger global environment, Facebook, YouTube, something like that? So the first question you kind of need to ask yourself, even before you figure out your interview or anything else, what's my purpose? Where do I want this to live? And then once you have a better understanding of that, you need to ask yourself, what's my goal? Is my goal academic? Is this something that lives in support of learning? Or is this something that's there to build awareness? Am I creating a video that talks about our program or about our team or about an opportunity or about my research, and it's really designed for a wider audience outside the University of Washington? And those are really important questions off the top because they're going to shape all the decisions you make throughout the interview, who you choose to interview, how you shoot it, what stills you incorporate. It's going to resonate with all of it. So if your choice is that you're looking to distribute internally, Canvas is your best bet. If you've not had an opportunity to look at Canvas, it's a replacement of Catalyst, and Canvas is a really robust tool. And for video creation and distribution, they have a tool in there called Tegrity. And Canvas and Tegrity allow you to capture what's on your screen or do that sort of traditional presentational talking head webcast sort of thing. And those tools live inside there. Canvas is also wired in such a way that it supports connections to all of your social channels that you may use. If you want to leverage Facebook or if you want to leverage LinkedIn or Twitter, those things are all woven into Canvas. Combined with the fact that Canvas also supports, if you want to get fancy, things like HTML, frames, those sorts of things. You can embed content from outside the university into the content that you're trying to present in Canvas. Canvas has it's easy to get started in and it's very deep. And my recommendation is that if you're looking to leverage something internally, get some training. There's great training. I did my training in Canvas at Odegaard. You can sign up for it. There's also really strong online help and their webinars and videos on demand on Canvas. It's a great tool. By and large, I'm not here to talk about Canvas because I really want you to begin to think about how to get your content beyond the walls of the university and make certain that you're reaching a larger audience. So just know that the tools are out there for Canvas, and a lot of the things that I want to talk about here this afternoon, you can apply to the content you create inside the university, but really let's talk about reaching beyond and making that connection. And I really want to talk about three basic areas, three things that I think will make a huge difference in the content that you create. One is understanding YouTube a little bit better. Understanding how people look at it, what works, what doesn't work, what you kind of need to pay attention to. And you'll see why I concentrate on YouTube. It really is the 9,000-pound gorilla of video distribution. Second thing I want to talk about is for you to be really thoughtful about how you choose to make it look. What kinds of images you use. If you're writing a script or doing an interview, what's your tone? What text you use. We weave that all together and that's called brand. What's the brand of your department? What's the brand of the university? How are you looking to put it together? And then the last thing I want to touch on here is going to be understanding how to tell, what choices you need to make and what approaches you need to make to tell better stories. So let's start with some of the external tools that you have out there. Certainly content is being distributed beyond LinkedIn. We're seeing tremendous amount of content being distributed with Vine, with Instagram, certainly with Facebook, with LinkedIn. But the one you really need to pay attention to, the one that's driving almost everything, is YouTube. And the reason why we pay attention to YouTube is, as of about 6 months ago, it's probably even more now, over 100 hours of content is being uploaded to YouTube every minute. It's 144,000 hours of content every day. And unless you're a 14-year-old living in a basement, the odds are you're not going to see it all. And that has significantly changed the idea of putting video on the web. It used to be such a really cool novelty. I mean, you could put paint drying up there and people would watch it. It was the adage of Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Well, the problem is if you post your video, the odds are they're not going to see it. There is so much competition out there, you really need to be thoughtful about what you're trying to accomplish. Who am I trying to reach? What am I trying to do? The novelty of video is gone. It's so ubiquitous in all forms of communication, whether it's business communication, whether it's education, whether it's outreach, whether it's marketing, whatever it is, people just expect to have that form of engagement available. And it's not the end-all be-all. It really works in concert with all of the efforts you're trying to do. It really works in concert with your web page, with the copy, with a press release, with your research, with your white paper. It all has to fit together coherently. And so you need to be thoughtful on a real global level how all the parts fit together. So the problem with a lot of the content that's up on the web is a disproportionate amount of it is just absolute crap. It's skateboarding cats, it's kids falling off of bicycles, it's sort of self-aggrandizement sort of stuff. So how do you make certain that your video gets through all that clutter? How do you make certain you're going to do it? Well, some folks think they can kind of game the system. They can use tools to the way they, clever names or misdirection, you name it, one thing, something that may be salacious or provocative, but it delivers something else. And there are a lot of folks who are really looking for ways to kind of game all this back end that's happening with YouTube and with Google, the folks who own YouTube. One of the things you need to understand is Google doesn't like that. They really don't like it in a big way because it impacts their data, and they make a living by selling data. They make a living by selling, in essence, advertising. So if you do think maybe you can do an end run, or you get a piece of email that says, instantly get 100,000 views on your video, YouTube's probably going to flag it. And if you do it 3 times, they shut you down. So you need to play within their rules, and you need to be a good YouTube citizen, which means you really can't game the system using devices. The only way to be successful in Google is tell good stories. You've got to create good content. That's what gets watched within the context of video. Folks are like, wow, you know, it needs to go viral. By and large, most of the content that goes viral is because of some form of failure. The person talking, their fly is unzipped, or somebody falls in the background. Or it's usually predicated on some sort of catastrophe that you really don't want. The idea of creating something that goes viral is pretty much, it's like saying, I'm going to create the best pictures for the Oscars next year. As we found out this year, that didn't even work for Spielberg. And so it really only works when you create really solid content. And that means you need to be thoughtful about how people find your content. 90% of the views of videos on the web come from search. What that means is that people are going to video to look for answers to things. What shoes do I buy? How do I clean a carburetor? Oh, I've got a pot roast, carrots, and a potato. Is there a recipe I can use these in? People are using video as a way to answer questions. So as you create your content, you always need to be asking, what question is this answering? What is this doing? Why is somebody going to want to watch this other than my mom? You know, who is actually going to engage in this content? And that also means that when you create content, you need to be thoughtful of how you describe it. You need to be thoughtful of the text. We still can't search video very well. By that I mean, there's no tool in YouTube where you put a video in and they look and they go, oh, it's a woman sitting on a chair in an office and it's a blue background and she's... They have no idea what it is. It's just ones and zeros. It doesn't make sense the way our eyes make sense of it. The only way it can figure it out is how you've described it, what other additional words you attach to it. It's in the tools, they're called tags, but it's a way that they search, and tags are keywords that if you're doing a recipe, you may also attach the words recipe, pot roast, carrots, potatoes, things that somebody might use to search against. It's really important you be thoughtful about what words you associate with it. And that means something called a folksonomy or a taxonomy. What the heck is a folksonomy? And there'll be no quiz, I promise. There'll be no quiz at the end. If you use Twitter at all, or if you hear about Twitter, you'll often hear people talk about hashtags. Hashtag is the pound symbol that's attached to a tweet, which puts it in a particular category. Hashtag fail. It's somebody describing a bad customer experience or something like that. And over time, everybody uses the same hashtag, those same words, to describe something. This year, I take a photo every day. It's called a 365-day project. A lot of people do this. And so the idea is to take a photo every day that describes your day, which is why I was taking photos before we started of what my day is today here. So every time I put that photo up on Instagram or in Flickr or tweet out, I attach hashtag 365. And that's a folksonomy. Everybody's agreed that's how we describe things. So you need to go look to see how people are describing things similar to your content. Your research, your education, your outreach, university, whatever it is, how are others describing it? Because that's what people are searching against. And if you want your audience to discover, you need to know what they're looking for. And then you also need to make certain that it doesn't just live on YouTube. That you've got it in your website, that you've sent a tweet out about it, that you've put it in LinkedIn, maybe you've got a Pinterest board that you're doing, that you're sharing with your community that this content exists, that you're in essence publicizing all this content that's out there. Make certain that you've got some sort of presence on Facebook. The demographics are shifting in Facebook. We don't see as much traction with what we call the digital natives, the millennials, basically undergrad and college students. A lot of those folks are beginning to leave Facebook, but it's still a really important place to be. Make certain that you are living in these tools, because we're looking at 500 years worth of videos being watched on Facebook every day. It's a tremendous amount of content that's out there. The other thing is you need to think about where your video lives in Facebook. In YouTube, I'm sorry. YouTube has two different ways of aggregating, of gathering all your content together. One is that place your little slice of the world in YouTube where you put your stuff up, and that's called a channel. So University of Washington has a channel, but so does Student Life, so does athletics, so does football. They're all separate addresses in YouTube, and that's a little chaotic. And what YouTube's asking folks to do is to begin to think about creating a large channel, and then inside you can put them together in what's called a playlist. And the reason why is YouTube wants to get this experience away from the computer. They want to move it into more of a television environment and a mobile environment. We're seeing engagement and use in computers dropping significantly. But we're seeing growth in mobile, tablets, smartphones, and growth in smart televisions. That's what's happening right now. And so and that's why YouTube has redesigned how we use it. And the idea of a playlist is what's sometimes called a lean back experience. Lean forward experience is how we use our computers. So you're there with a mouse and you're clicking and those sorts of things. Lean back experience is how we watch TV with the remote, you're here, and that tends to be, you just kind of let it wash over you. You're less aggressive in clicking away things. And a playlist, the idea is to create more of a lean back experience. So you may have a playlist for your department or your team or your project inside the University of Washington channel. And those playlists can be promoted separately. In other words, there's a link for that playlist that you can circulate, that people go to. If they click on it, it opens up just your playlist in the University of Washington and YouTube. Here's the advantage. Your video is now part of the University of Washington channel ecosystem, which means people are going to discover your content who otherwise may not find it. They may be in the University of Washington and go, wow, that's an interesting video. I think I'll look at that. And so for discovery, it becomes a really powerful way to do it. The other thing is you can create custom watermarks in all of your videos. So you know how in news and stuff you see a little bug in the corner, it might be the channel or something like that. Well, the thing about YouTube is that is a link. So if you have a watermark on it, somebody can click on it and it'll take you either to your website if it's connected or to your channel. Here's where that's valuable. Your content doesn't just live in the channel. The beauty of YouTube is it goes. It gets syndicated without you doing anything. Somebody likes it and they put it on Reddit, or they put it in their blog, or they put it on Facebook, or all of those sorts of things. And that's great that they watch it. But you want them to get back to your website or back to your channel. So that watermark is always there. They can always click on that watermark and drive it back to where you want them to be. And you get folks who are engaging in all of your content. So watermarking is really important. And so when you look at a video, it's that little bug down in the corner or up above. And those tools, you don't have to attach it on any video. It's something that once you set it up in YouTube, automatically gets added to all your videos. And it's a really powerful way to do it. The other thing in YouTube that you need to pay attention to, think about how unattractive a lot of the thumbnail, the little still frame, the thumbnail of the video, it's like, it's usually something, you want to create a thumbnail that somebody's going to want to click on. It's in essence a visual ad for, it's the best part of your video, and maybe it's a description. Well, once you've been in YouTube for a while and you're a good partner, they give you the option to create a custom thumbnail. So you can go into Photoshop or Paint or something like that, and you can create a graphic that makes your video far more enticing. And then you can upload the custom thumbnail into YouTube, and that's what you can choose. You're not stuck with what, you know, they grab one 5 seconds in, one in the middle, and one at 2/3 in. And so that's why it's so random and you don't have any choice. But a custom thumbnail can create something that makes it far more, when you look at the 3 that they gave me, it was like, so at least I can pick a shot that looks more inviting. Oh, this guy doesn't look like quite such a goob. Oh, this looks interesting, I think I'll watch it. And literally, when I put a custom thumbnail, it triples the views on my videos. It's a significant change in how things go. You also need to brand your site, and YouTube has all sorts of materials available to you. This is their stock graphic background. So have someone on your team who understands graphics or something like that. It's very large. And this is the set when they do it. And interestingly enough, even though it appears at the top of the screen, your graphic goes into the middle of the screen. That whole thing, that weird amorphous thing there, is the header on my channel. So that's the design that I did, and that's the background. And the reason why it's set up that way is it's designed for a television experience as opposed to a standard browser experience. And so they've done it in such a way. And then that also, by adhering to their rules, it also formats properly in all the different mobile devices. Make certain when you create the artwork and you upload it that you test it on a smartphone, you test it in a tablet, and you test it in a browser. And the reason why you want to do that is you want to make certain that when they land on your channel looks like you, that it reflects the brand of your organization or the university. So, and it's not just that, hey, aren't we cool? Brands give viewers comfort. They have an emotional connection with that brand, that logo, the colors, all of those sorts of things. And by having that brand, making certain that the graphics look like they fit in, making certain that the colors are right, making certain the logos, all of those sorts of, they'll go, oh, this is official. I like these guys. This is really good. If I'm creating a video for McDonald's and I do something in hot pink, people are going to go, what the heck? No, it's got to have those warm gold tones and stuff. Okay, quick quiz. What color is Starbucks?
Green.
Typically, what color is Apple?
White.
White. See, you've already got these sorts of, IBM. Anybody remember the color of IBM? Blue, big blue. It was even called big blue for years. And for us, what's the color?
Purple.
Folks have an association with that color purple. You need to leverage it. It gives credibility to your stuff and makes people far more comfortable with what you're doing. So what are the assets that you have for leveraging the brand? Okay, so I've talked about a couple of them. What are some of the assets? What are some of the things you use to reflect a brand?
Color.
Colors, one. What else?
Logos.
Logos, what else?
Font.
Font is excellent. What else?
Phrases.
Exactly, taglines. So fonts, colors, a tagline, music. You may have we've got a number of songs, but also you may have a style, logo, voice. The voice, so you may work in a department that is all about research and all about being taken seriously. So your voice may be more formal. You may work in student life. You do a formal voice, and trust me, folks aren't really going to engage. The odds are it's going to be more casual. It's going to be more first person. The language may not be as complicated, fewer dependent clauses, those sorts of things. All of it fits together in style, but also think about the imagery that you choose. Because image, if you're working in marketing in the university, you've got photos that are part of your photo library which reflect the brand, whether you're doing a layout, a pamphlet that's going out to prospective students, whether you're putting stuff on the web, they fit within a look and feel. Your video should fit within that look and feel of the brand and the imagery that's available. So, real quick, I just wanted to show you. So I made up a fictitious company. It's called Wally's World of Widgets. He's got brand colors. The font is Myriad Pro. The tagline, widgets while you wait. They have a cog, which is a graphic accent. That's the logo they use. It's also in black and white. These are the kinds of assets that you need to think about. They're available to you. You need to leverage them. You need to leverage them in things like lower third graphics. This is where we put people's names. There's a chance there to use the color, to use a logo, to use all these sorts of things to reinforce your voice in relationship to what's going on. It should happen in your full screen graphics at the end. We call these a call to action, a CTA. What it is it's click on this link or do this. Your audience wants to have a reason for watching it, and you want them to take action when it's done. I'd like to think of all of this. Some people are like, oh man, I just want to do my own thing. Brand is grammar. It's story grammar, it's message grammar, it's the scaffolding which affords you the opportunity to tell powerful, consistent, productive stories. And you're going to have more success by doing it that way. So how do you make certain they're engaging? 3 things I want you to do. 1, always make certain it's the best you can make it. It's got to be quality is your job 1. See, look, I chose another tagline. It is critical that you make it the best you can make it. It won't be perfect. Usually I don't like anything I've done for a year because I'm too close to it. I think it's just absolutely the dog's lunch. So make certain you're doing the best, all you can to make it, even if you're just spending 5 minutes on it, do the very best you can. Make certain that your content is focused on a single topic or story. Video is not like reading. Reading, we start doing things, you read the first paragraph, you go, oh, this is interesting. And then second, oh no, you skip the second paragraph. Oh, the 4th paragraph, this is what I care about. If you've got a video that's covering 3 points, and I'm there to see the 3rd point, I'm not there. I'm leaving. I have to wait too long to shoot 3 videos. They need to be singularly focused, particularly because the behavior of discovery is on search. So as a consequence, folks want to be there for a particular reason, but most of all, tell visual stories. We don't engage with our ears, we engage with our eyes. 90% of what we learn is visual. That's how we engage. When we do eye tracking, a talking head, if you've got a 2-minute video and they watch a talking head and we eye track them, they're on that talking head for less than 10 seconds. They're looking at the background, they're looking at the lamp coming out of my head, they're reading all the stuff on the side, they're trying to figure out how long it is in the player, they're looking at all the controls. They're not watching the video because talking heads don't give them new visual stimulus. So how can you tell visual stories? And what that means is you need to understand the difference between stories and facts. There's a lot of content that's out there which is put together like a PowerPoint with bullet points and text. If your audience is a technical audience and you're a research physicist and you're trying to get to other physicists and you're giving a presentation on your research, which is basically an encapsulation of your white paper or the report you've had published, here's your article and you're giving a talk about it, that's great. You may only get 10 views. They may be exactly the 10 people you want to see it. That doesn't make it a failure. It's just not going to be widely adopted. What it means is that a fact that's provocative or new, wow, I didn't know that, that's a good way to tell a story. But a story is about people. We watch a story and we play along like a game show. Ooh, how would I make that choice? Oh, I felt that way. Oh, what are they going to do? That's how we engage in. Think about ghost stories around a campfire. As you sit there and you imagine yourself in that situation, what would I do? Well, that's how we watch videos. It may not be as overt, but you're really engaging emotions within that storytelling. A lot of the folks I work with, particularly in the medical and the scientific community, and trust me, I work with a lot of them, they really believe that data and research is critical to establish their credibility. That, they need to respect me. I've worked 40 years to do this. That's great in an academic in an academic setting. It's wretched in a video. That's not how we watch video. That's not the reason. These guys are all laughing because they've been there.
We're there every day.
Exactly. And so there are times when I'm presented with that conundrum, I'll say, okay, let's do two versions. Let's do your version, let's do my version. Let's see, let's look at the data sets when we're done. And then I go, oh look, we got 413 views on my version, you got 6 on yours. So what do you want to accomplish? If the 6 is great because you got the right 6, that's okay, we'll continue to do that. Are you looking to build awareness? Are you looking to create something where somebody's going to want more information? Create a video that grabs somebody's attention so that then they're going to want to read the research. Go to the website, read the article. That's your call to action. You provoke an idea, you provoke a concept, but wow, I need to know more about this. Your call to action is a link at the end which drives them to a PDF of that research or takes them to a website with that research. Are you attracting attention or are you merely just regurgitating facts? More data does not increase understanding. You also understand that we don't remember all the data. It gets lost. There's a great Gary Larson cartoon. It's 2 panels. One is a man reprimanding his dog. No, Ginger, you can't do that. Don't do that. And underneath it says, what we say to our dogs. The panel next to it is what our dogs hear, and it's blah, 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 Ginger, blah, 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 Ginger. Well, all that data, after off the on, it's just blah, 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 Ginger, blah, blah. It just doesn't retain. We don't remember it. It doesn't make you look smarter. You need to find a gentle way to say, don't be so insecure. Trust that your research is great and trust that your audience believes you. Trust that your audience is going to be there because too much data is simply far too confusing. Folks just have no idea what to do. Pick one surprising fact, the takeaway from that research or the thing that you think is really going to make people go, wow, I need to know more about this. Because that surprise, that discovery, that ideation is a really powerful way to engage. Because you have to remember, we're not making TV on the web. Television was broadcasting, standing on a soapbox, shouting at everybody. That's not the way video on the web works. Video on the web is a conversation. It's one-to-one. It's a dialogue. When Rick was talking about, do we look into the camera or do we look to the side of the camera? When I have to make that choice, my question is it direct education? Am I talking directly to somebody? It might be a testimonial. It might be me imparting information directly as a conversation with someone. Or, and I think of that as first person. You know, in writing we talk about first person, third person. I think of that as a first person engagement. When I talk to the side, I think of third person. I think of my camera is now a witness or somebody who's listening in to a conversation, and that producer or that reporter is a guide for me through that story. Well, they have different reasons. This is one-to-one. This is much more presentational where someone is a witness. They're both effective, but for an audience member, we engage differently. One's more like a documentary, one's more like education or direct connection. And the web is a very effective tool at that one-to-one, but in order to work, you need to make certain that if you're going to do one-to-one, that sometimes people have this weird existential near-death experience when they're being interviewed on camera. It's like they're floating up in the ceiling and they can see themselves in the chair and the light and there's the camera and they totally forget what they're saying. It's just, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Words are just randomly, because they're so caught in the moment, it's like their soul is being sucked through the lens of this camera. And you need to get them out of that. So if I see that and I'm doing an interview, then I'm going to ask them a question that's so in their wheelhouse that they're going to forget about the process. The odds are it's not a question I'm going to use. I just want them to forget about the process and let's get into a conversation. So remember, it's really a one-to-one conversation. And here's the reason why. 20% of your audience is gone in the first 10 seconds. 20%. 2 minutes in, 2/3 of your audience are gone. So if your big meaty thing is 2 minutes into your video, who's left? Are the people you were trying to do? The opening animation that we saw, that was really beautiful animation. If you've got 10, 15 seconds of animation to start your video, well, guess what? If we're 20 seconds in, 30 of your audience is gone. They don't even get to your content. If behaviors of watching video is driven by search, you need to let them know what you're talking about right off the top, then get into your Fancy Pants Open. Fancy Pants Open is great. It's branding, it gives things. There's a reason why in news we do what's called a cold open or a tease. Today, we're going to go to a dumpster fire. Well, I mean, you just see the anchor there on the news right off the top. And it is to tell people, get them engaged, what's going to happen. And then later on, we get into the big fancy animation. Animation's great. Those things are great for branding. But make certain, because currently behavior is driven on search, you let them know what you're going to talk about, what they're going to look at the person and go, oh, I trust this. Oh, I like it. Oh, that's a nice set. Oh, oh my gosh, that looks like the witness protection. That's not what I'm going to do. And so you need to understand that your audience is making those decisions right off the top, because they're leaving in a heartbeat. You also need to know who your audience is. If you ask somebody, what are you trying to accomplish? If I ask somebody, say, okay, who's your audience? They go, I guess everybody. And my reply is, well, then I guess it's nobody. You have to understand that with all of that content out there, we're really slicing ever smaller pieces of the pie. So you need to know who you're trying to do. I may create a persona. I may look at the data that's on my website. If I'm working within something that's already got there, who's there? What's my traffic? I may create a persona that reflects somebody's demographics, something to give me a better understanding of what's going on. And if you're just creating content that lives internally, not externally, or if you're just creating content that's maybe of an event or put together with your web phone, you have to understand your audience doesn't cut you any slack because it's internally. They look at it the same set of eyes that they do a Beyonce video or Doctor Who or your video. It's the same set of eyes. That doesn't mean you have to throw a lot of money at it. It just means you have to sweat the details and make certain it's the very best you can be. So as I wrap up here, I just want to say that there are a couple of things here you need to touch on. One is avoid the kitchen sink syndrome. What that means is, well, I'm only doing one video this year, so it has to cover everything. No. Video engagement is about doing a lot of content, being a trusted advisor, being a voice where somebody can rely on. That means put out a video a month, put out a video a week, put out, if you do one every 6 months, you're not reliable and they're not going to pay attention and you're not building an audience. If you send out a tweet once a month, you got 6 followers. If you send out a tweet every day and it's relevant and it's not just about you, it's something that's helpful, you build an audience. So you need to understand you need to be consistent, and my 6 principles of great content are: 1, always be the viewer. Why are they going to watch? What are they looking for? Why the heck do they care? You need to make certain that you have authority around what you know what you're talking about, and you present it from a point of authority. You need to make certain that you have strategy. Who's my audience? Where am I putting it? How am I doing my colors? How does it fit within Facebook? How does it fit on Instagram? How does it fit on my webpage? You need to make certain that you're creating a lot of content, that you're prolific around what you're trying to do. That means having a plan, which is what we're going to talk about here in a minute. Make certain that whomever is telling the story, whether it's the way you write it, whether it's a person who's on camera, that they care. Because if you don't care, and if your person on camera doesn't care, your audience isn't going to care. You got to have some passion around it, and mostly be tough on yourself. Think everything sucks. How can I make it better? What can I do better? Who's watching? What's not watching? In YouTube, in data in YouTube, you can open up your video, and if you've got enough views, you can hit play, and it'll show you a graph as it plays with a bar that shows as people leave. And you can go, oh, at this point, people left. Why? Well, what did I do here? Or, wow, the numbers actually went up. How did people, well, that means people rewound to watch it again. And that means you've done something that's really successful or really provocative. Use those analytics to get a sense of what's going on. because you have to figure out their wants and needs. You have to make certain that content you're creating is entertaining, it's educational, it's engaging, and it's emotional. Even if what you're doing is fact-based, how are you going to make somebody feel? And that means you've got to have a strategy. You've got to be thoughtful about how you're putting all those parts together. And that means put your plan together. Your goal, your outcome, your audience, what are my assets, what am I going to use, who's my hero, create a blueprint for success. So with that,
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, that was great. Breakfast, you need a glass of water or something?
I usually do this for like 8 hours a day.
Well, you know, I think we're going to create a little bit of a cliffhanger because I was going to talk a little
Did I
bit
run
about...
out of time?
That's all right.
No.
You know, there's more where that came from,
Oh,
right?
man.
So, but Drew, thank you so much. That was really terrific. I was going to talk a little bit about that plan, and I was going to try to get a little bit more serious about getting some numbers behind what is really going on in the world of mobile video, because I think it's fascinating to take a look at how people's behaviors are changing. You know, just a small example: the advent of the tablet computer. Now we have 30% of all television viewing on Friday nights. Think about that. 30% of all television viewing on Friday nights is on a tablet. I mean, that is nuts. 4 years ago, those things came out. 4 years. So I'm going to save it for 2 months hence.
Oh, you got to see it. It's an incredible data set. It really is. I saved a bunch of stuff because I was really jacked about what you had to say.
But I think we want these folks to get home. You know, there's a long weekend coming up. But so I just want to say thank you. We actually streamed this on YouTube. Do we know how many views we got? One. We got one.
That one right there, Ron. It's all about advertising, but moreover.
So I just want to say thank you all for coming, for spending your Friday afternoon with us. I want to thank our panelists, Bob, Rick, and Drew, for taking time out, spending the time to get ready for this. I really appreciate it. I want to thank our camera person and videographer, Austin Sieventhoff, up there, doing a great job for us. Rem and Jerry for getting help set up, and Lorna for all the other things that go into a production like this. So Harry for getting the word out. Next we'll do another video lunchbox in 2 months. So what is that, March? I will talk mobile, and we will also go through, we'll also have our engineers and our producers talk a little bit about video equipment that you might want to invest in to create more content for yourselves. Before you walk out, I do have a favor to ask. Lorna has a very quick survey to tell us what you liked about this session and what you wished we would have covered that we didn't. That will help us program the next one in March. Thank you again for coming. Have a wonderful weekend, and go Seahawks!
One last thing, and that is I'll post a PDF of my slide deck and send it here. So that, and then if I touch on research or anything, you'll see there are a lot of links there. There are a lot of Easter eggs. Just click on the graphics and stuff, and it'll drive you to the research or whatever it was.
You'll be able to see all of this, get all this information at uw.edu/video.
Yep.
Just click on the video lunchbox, and everything that was here, you'll be able to find it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good job. I've got a phenomenal show on shooting.